first of all, I should say thank you very much for having me come over today. I
It's
appreciate
my
it.
pleasure, I assure you, really. Now, you know, the business that we have, I'll kind of give you a little, is this on or so?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Started with Schireson Brothers. Matter of fact, I just ran across a couple of cards here.
Oh, thank you. Oh, this is the old.
The old Schireson Brothers started in 1902.
Wow.
Now, in the business what we have today, which has gone over to the electronics, we have the fourth generation. We are in business over 100 years.
Wow.
So the fourth generation is working at the Simi Valley place. We have 6 outlets for the distribution of electronics. We have San Diego, Las Vegas, San Jose, Cerritos, Van Nuys, and Simi Valley is the main warehouse. And now we're looking for a place in, next one will be Bakersfield. No, I'm sorry, it's going to be Redlands. And we have, in the electronics, we have all the major lines as a distributor. We're a distributor for Pioneer Electronics, to Toshiba, Sharp, but all the good lines there. And we're very proud of it and very happy. And Yamaha Electronics, we're now distributors for that in LA, in California, as well as now Hawaii. They just gave us the Hawaiian territory. And it's becoming very, very big. I started with myself and started to grow, and today we have close to 60 employees.
Wow.
And we're very proud of what we're doing.
So, who started the company? Your grandfather?
My father started in 1902.
Wow.
Over at 349 North Main Street. And prior to World War II, we started to manufacture electric guitars. And I have a book over there I'll show you.
Wow.
With our guitars in it. And our main business is started off with Hawaiian guitars, solid body Hawaiian guitars.
So would that be similar to sort of the frying pan idea that Rickenbacker was doing?
Correct. And there was another firm called Dickerson. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
Sure.
Okay. And we came out with a pearl-covered solid body, as well as just a natural wood. And that was the beginning of the manufacturing of Hawaiian guitars. Prior to that, we were manufacturers of regular acoustic guitars, ukuleles, mandolins, and to this day, people are calling us from the eBay, letting us know they've got an old Schireson Brothers guitar, and also went under the name of Hollywood Guitars, Robert E. Pearson Guitars, Lyric also, and we have several other names that we use. We once, I'll just let that go, okay? We once manufactured a resin, are you getting that? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, a resonator guitar, like the Dobro.
Oh, yeah.
And Dobro took us to court that we're infringing on their patents. And we lost, and we had to cease the manufacturing of the resonator guitar. And Hawaiian guitar, before the World War II, I traveled all over the United States. Every distributor of musical instruments I called on. From New York, back here up north, all around. Had a Hawaiian guitar and a small amplifier that we would retail at $49.95, sell it for $29.97. It had 606 tubes, which today will cost you by the price of what you paid for the whole thing at that time. And it was very big. Then when the World War II broke out, we ceased the operation. Then when I came back, we started I went back to the music store, and we moved from 349 North Main to 226 North Main, and then we moved it over on Broadway, 344 South Broadway. And from there, we just sold items from right after the war, Japanese products, which were very hard to sell. Then one day, a Mr. Morita came into my store, asked to see if he could see a Mr. Schireson. I said I was Mr. Schireson. He said if I would give him a little time, he wanted to show me what he had. And he pulls out a little sample box like you have there, a 6-transistor radio and a 8-transistor. And I looked at it. He said, very nice. He said, would you like to become my distributor? I said, yes. You're now my distributor. It was Sony. Mr. Morita was president of Sony Corporation.
No kidding.
So I was one of the first Sony distributors in California.
Huh.
And from that, then we grew and Hitachi came to us, and I became the first Hitachi distributor. And it went very nicely. Then we opened up a showroom at the Furniture Mart, 1933 South Broadway. Excuse me. We had a showroom there and displayed the TVs from Sony. And the question always was, as somebody would come in, a dealer from furniture, said, what is a television company doing here in the Furniture Mart? And today, you go to a furniture store, everybody has TVs to sell. And that was the beginning of the electronic industry with me. Then we branched out from Broadway. We separated the music store to the consumer electronics. And we got other lines, and we grew from one location to another and to another. And that was the beginning of Volutone. Now, the name Volutone is what we used before the war, was the name of our instruments. And so we changed the name for the distributing company to Volutone. And now, usually on a lot of invoices, we'll see Schireson Brothers, or say Volutone DBA Schireson Brothers. So we've been in the industry a very long time.
So are you sort of weaning off of Schireson Brothers' name?
No, we still have it, but we do not use it at the music store. The music store is still going strong. I sold it to my employees, and they changed the name to International Music, International House of Music. And they can't use the name Schireson Brothers any longer. But on the side of the building, it still says Schireson Brothers. So we've been in the industry a long, long time. And we manufactured at that time not only guitars, but ukuleles, mandolins, and a few other instruments there.
Very interesting.
And I've seen the industry just grow and grow, of course, coming from the music industry to the electronics thing, which is very big today.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell me just a little bit about your father? Where did he grow up?
Lithuania.
Oh, okay.
He came over here in 1902, opened up a little bicycle shop to begin with, together with musical instruments. Huh. And I remember working in the store where we would sell a guitar for $4.95, 50 cents down, and 50 cents a week. Okay. It was just beautiful. And I said, do you want to stop that, or do you want to keep going on that?
Let me just adjust this for a second here.
Go right ahead.
Let that ring. Was your father musically inclined?
No, none whatsoever.
Really?
So he went in business with his brother, who came over from Lithuania also, and they called it Schireson Brothers. And
now tell me, just so I have the facts right, what was your dad's name?
Jacob.
Jacob, and your uncle?
Nathan.
Okay.
Yes, I have a book there I'm going to show you in a moment that has the names on there.
Oh, thank you.
And I've seen it grow from one little place to another, and it was beautiful to see the growth, really. And I've seen other stores come and go downtown LA, and today the music store that I had is the biggest, I would say, in the area here. And they're doing very well. I would cater mainly to the Latin American trade. I've encountered some very fine musicians here in the desert that I've gone up to, and they'll remember me, Mr. Schireson, how are you? He'll tell people, see this guitar right here? I bought it from Mr. Schireson 50 years ago. So it's very, very gratifying, really.
Can you tell me a little bit about, well, first of all, did your uncle stay in the business for a long while?
No, then he sold his half to me, and my father and myself were partners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I came back from the service.
Now, do you have any idea about some of the struggles they must have gone through during the Depression and what they may have done to compensate for it?
It was tough. It was very, very tough, and they just stood there and took it and went along with it, and they weathered the storm, and it was great. Ended up beautifully.
Did they take on additional products, or how did they
Well,
make it work?
in the music store, we carried just regular lines that were distributed to us. And then, of course, the instruments which we manufactured. A very big article with us, or item with us, was the button accordions, which the Latin American people use. And so just after I came back from the service, I would go over to Italy. There was one little town called Casafidardo, which does nothing but manufacture accordions. Every little house would manufacture a piece for it. And I'd go over there about twice a year and bring in button accordions, and it's a rarity. The average music store did not even carry it.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
And it's very big. You'll see a group, a mariachi group, there's always a button accordion in that.
I'm going to have you hang on for just one second. This is great stuff, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I don't know whether I'm talking too much there or so.
I'm just going to move this. I got a little bit of
feedback there.
yeah. I'm going to try this. Oh, actually, if I'm smart, I'll do it this way. Keep it from rubbing, I think.
Good.
That's my problem.
That's all right.
One of the things that, of course, Schireson Brothers is very well known for is, as you alluded to earlier, the early, and I do mean early, introduction into the guitar and the electric guitar and the amplifier and all of those great innovations.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how the company first got involved with that?
With the guitar manufacturing?
Yes.
Okay. My uncle was in charge of the manufacturing. He was very, very handy. And in the back of the music store, he started to manufacture the guitars, just guitars. And then we kind of got a little larger. We took a larger space. And from that, he went into ukuleles and, let's say, mandolins. And he did well with it.
So he actually did it himself at first.
Yes, at first we did it ourselves.
Interesting.
Then I remember on the electric guitar, I would cover it with a plastic. I would take the plastic. That was my job, I remember, and put the plastic over the guitars. And we had two very big customers in the days of the Hawaiian guitars. One was Oahu Publishing Company. I don't know whether you ever heard of it or not. They had schools all over the United States, Hawaiian guitar schools, and they were one of our biggest customers. There was also another one called Stanley Publishing Company, who was his brother-in-law, same thing. And they were some of our biggest customers. And then we came back and, let's see, we had a pickup for the electric guitars on the order of the DeArmond pickup. Do you remember the DeArmond?
Sure.
Okay. We had one, you could put it on a acoustic guitar, but ours, you had to have a little magnet, which we would enclose with it to touch the strings, to magnetize the strings. Then pretty soon we set up an automatic magnifying of the strings by a certain or a certain little socket on our amplifiers. We'd plug it into that, it would automatically magnify the strings. And then we use the same pickup as we use in the electric guitars, as well as just a pickup on the acoustic guitars.
Now, was it your own?
Our own
pickup?
patent, yes,
You
our own,
created your
yes, yes. It was brought to us by a gentleman that worked at a telephone company. He had a patent on it, and he showed it to us, and we bought the patent from him. And I remember that day. It was very interesting.
Do you happen to remember the guy's name?
I don't remember.
So this is just so I clarify, this is a telephone company guy who, on his own, created this patent.
Yes, yes.
And then came to you.
Came to us with it. It was what we called a Volutone pickup. It was flat on this order, and it was used quite a bit. Yeah. It was very good. And I think ourselves, as well as DeArmond at that time, DeArmond was very big. And but it's funny, we had to carry a little magnet around. If somebody would break a string while they're playing, they had to put a new string on and touch it with a magnet. So, and it grew quite big.
And the line then, as you pointed out earlier, was Volutone was actually the product.
Volutone was our name, it's a patented name, and it stands for volume and tone. Volutone. And our amplifiers, we manufactured 2 different style of amplifiers, real small one, and they were wonderful amplifiers. And we still have them on display at our Simi Valley location. And we have, well, people tell us that they've got guitars or a mandolin with our names on it, and my son would purchase them. He's got quite a collection of them.
Now, a lot of this, the amplifier and that sort of thing really started after or before the war?
After. And it was very tough to get tubes. I remember I had to run around and pay retail for tubes, 606s, and it's another one there. And then we got them from it was a tube manufacturer called Arturus. I don't know if they're in business, and I've never seen their name. And I'd purchase about 100 at a time, eggshell, in that, just no individual boxes. And I would say 50% of them we could not use because it was microphonic or so, or feedback you'd get from them. So we'd use about 50% of whatever we bought. It was tough getting parts then.
I bet.
Then it was tough selling the instruments, electronics, because of Japanese product.
You mean competitor-wise?
Well, people did not wish to buy Japanese products at first. And then the word got around, it's not Japanese, it's Standard Oil of New York, SONY. And people say, oh, it's not Japanese, it's Standard Oil. And it took off and took off, and we see what Sony is today. Tremendous. But we were on the ground floor.
It's sort of interesting that you guys didn't have a hesitation to do business with them, although other people did.
Yes. Yeah. Always, my father's philosophy was, do not turn down anybody who comes in and wants to show you your product, his product. Give him all the courtesy he deserves. You never know what he'll be selling next. I never forgotten that, and I always tell that to my son. Be nice to a salesman. Today he could be selling just a small part. Tomorrow he could be Hitachi, Sony, or Yamaha. And it works out. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but the name Schireson Brothers is very big out there. You never heard anything bad about us, and it's just been wonderful.
So did your dad stay in the business?
Yes. Yeah, Dad stayed into it till he was 94 years old. Yeah,
It's quite a life in music.
yeah. Just wonderful, wonderful man. Just beautiful. And I just kind of gave it up just about 5 years ago, giving up the music part of it. And I'm just in electronics now. I used to import musical instruments when China opened up the trading with China. I went over there and I would purchase violins, lots of violins in there. That was the first thing that you would see would be violins in the music industry. Then Yamaha started to build everything, as you know. But violins was a big thing with me, to the schools and all that. And I brought over brass instruments from China, and I brought them over from Europe. They were manufacturers of saxophones and others that I would import. So we were in the import business also. It was very interesting.
Getting back to your dad for just a second.
Yes, sure.
When you think about him, what sort of memories do you have of him?
Well, he was such a fine gentleman. I'll just put it that way. Everybody just loved him. Funny thing happened 2 nights ago. I was at a theater over here, and a gentleman came up to me. He says, "You remember me?" I looked at him and gave me his name, Herman Season. He used to sell us 45 years ago. He says, "I'll never forget your father. Every time I came into your store, please sit down. Can I get you a cup of coffee or something?" And he spoke so highly of him.
What a great reputation to have.
Yes, thank you. Very good. Matter of fact, I've run across several people here that used to be reps for different lines who've got in touch with me and would reminisce about the olden times there. It's just wonderful. So everything was good of what they said about my father. I was very proud of it. And now my son's in business with me, my son-in-law, and my son-in-law's son, who is now 22.
Wow.
He's working out of Simi Valley. He was working at the San Diego branch. He was going to school there in San Diego. Then he decided he wanted full-time in the electronic field. And he's a whiz at it, everything, installation, everything. The young generation today is just wonderful. In that field, it's fantastic.
Was your mother involved with the
No,
business?
no, she was not. No, none of the women, none of the wives or anything.
And do you have any siblings yourself, brothers or sisters?
Yes, I do have one sister still living. Had a brother who was in the auction business. He passed away about 6 years ago. Used to be with Abel Auction Company. That was his. He had the biggest, I'd say, biggest control of it. He was there. And then today I have 6 grandchildren. And they were living, 2 of them live here in the States, and 4 of them went over to Israel, lived in Israel, and they just moved from Israel to an island called Bonaire, which is the other side of Aruba. And they're starting a little restaurant over there.
Isn't that nice?
Yes, and I have one grandson here working in Beverly Hills, another grandson in the States, Colorado University. Another one is going to go to San Diego University. He was just accepted last week. So, and they call me constantly. They all keep in touch with me, which is very gratifying.
Yeah, I bet it is. Tell me about your own war experience. Were you drafted?
I was drafted. I spent most of my time in Italy. I'll say 3 years. First landed in North Africa, and from North Africa went over to the coast of through the Straits there, landed in Italy, down below Naples. Then we fought our way all the way on up to this side of Rome. The Foggia airport was down below when all our bombers were there. Casino, Mount Casino was a big thing there. All the planes would, if you're familiar with Mount Casino, all of our bombers we would see bombing Mount Casino. And then when Italians surrendered, matter of fact, I got a newspaper on the wall there. The war is over here. The war is over here, and then they were going to transfer us to the Pacific. And as we were on a boat going to the Pacific, these armistice signs, war's all over with. So I spent most of my time in Italy, a little time in North Africa, and then I came home after 3.5 years. And let's see, my brother also went to Italy. He was in the Coast Guard. He called me one day, and I met him up there. Spent a night with him. He was on leave for about a night. We saw each other, and he took off. That was the extent of my war.
Were things different when you came back home?
They were different. We also had, Schireson Brothers also had a school for students. We would give them an instrument and charge them 50 cents a week. And we would have teachers for violin, clarinet, trumpet, and that became big again. And we also opened up a school in Watts. I remember I was in charge of that. And today, it's very, very gratifying. I'll run across some people, say, Mr. Schireson, yes, I want to thank you. You started me off on my musical education, and today I'm with a big band or so. Thanks to you. I get that quite frequently.
How wonderful.
Yeah, very, very gratifying. I ran across a gentleman here named, I can't think of his name right now. He's a very, very big Spanish guitarist, Mexican guitarist, and Lalo Guerrero.
Oh, yeah.
There's even a street named after him in Cathedral City.
Wow.
And he was playing out here at the casino. I went over to see him. He saw me. He put his guitar down, came over and gave me a great big hug, and says toward the group, this gentleman showed me my guitar. And that was the extent of it.
So tell me just a little bit, particularly after the war, how did the company progress, and what sort of product line did you pursue?
Well, we had the big names, like a Peavey and all that, but Peavey wasn't at the beginning. And whichever was available, there wasn't too much available at that time, but we did carry. And at that time, downtown LA, before the war, was very, very busy on Saturday nights. There was no shopping centers between here and San Bernardino or here in Palm Springs. So they all would come down on a Saturday night. Streets would be mobbed, especially on Main Street. It was unbelievable. And I remember the musicians all here in Palm Springs would all come down there, in all the little cities around here. And it gained momentum, business was good, people were still working. As I told you, our guitar we sold for $4.95, 50 cents down, 50 cents a week. Can't buy a set of strings today for $4.95. Same thing on a violin. You can't buy a set of strings. I used to sell violins, $29.95, complete set with a case and all. It was beautiful memories. I enjoyed it very, very much. And we had a few other music stores in LA, probably before you came out here. There was a Lockheed Music, if you remember them.
Sure.
There was a Southern California Music Company. There was American Music Company that went out. They were next block from us. And there's a couple of smaller ones. But we're still here.
You said a while ago that you, excuse me, now it's my turn, that you put plastic on the guitars. What did you?
We'd have great big sheets of plastic, and we'd put the guitar down, the solid body, and I would put glue on them and put the plastic over them, like the Dickerson. If you remember, have you ever seen a Dickerson? You have. It was in a plastic also. We had a white and we had a black plastic, just on the same order. And that was my job. Then, of course, I'll be running out all the time getting parts for the amplifiers, which were hard to get at that time.
It sounds like that was a challenge, probably particularly after the war when things were still probably at a shortage.
Yeah. I remember we would also get other instruments in that used, I don't know, it was other amplifiers or so, but would come without tubes. The manufacturer couldn't buy tubes. And so I was able to pick up certain tubes for the amplifiers of some other makes and wherever else I needed them. There was such a shortage of that.
And you also said something, if you don't mind expanding on a little bit, I had no idea that the Schireson brothers worked on a
resonator guitar, yes. I was just looking through a guitar book. There's one there, looks like a Dobro, and ours looked very similar to it. They had on a little grill there, ours was under the name of Hollywood. And it was a little different, the resonator, than theirs, but I remember going to court when Dobro was suing us. And I'll never forget the day we lost. It goes way back.
What was that like?
Well, that was a heartache. We could not manufacture a resonator guitar anymore, but we still manufactured the others. We manufactured Hawaiian guitars, not the solid body, but regular string, regular like acoustic guitar, and you put a little metal nut over the ivory nut and raise the strings up, and they use that as a Hawaiian guitar. That was before the electrics came out. And let's see.
I think people forget that the Hawaiian guitar was a big deal.
Big thing. You ask someone today, do you know what a Hawaiian guitar is? No. They don't know what it is. Or a steel guitar. They refer to it as steel guitar. And as I say, I've got a book there which shows guitars manufactured by Schireson Brothers. I'll show it to you afterwards. And let's see, well, that's about it.
Did the company always have a catalog?
No. Maybe if we would make one style guitar, we'd maybe have a print at one sheet or so. Today, I have catalogs that we put out, tremendous, very, very thick of the electronics. All the parts of everything. Very big.
Was that sort of a tough decision to say goodbye to the musical instruments for you?
Yes, it was. I was born and raised in the music industry. I still go down on Broadway where they still have the music store, and my employees that I had are still there. My secretary at that time, or a young lady worked in the office. I keep in touch with her once a week. She's been there now 43 years with me and the company. All my employees, my manager was 48 years, another one 39 years, every single one of them. And I call them on their birthdays today, just to keep in touch with them. It was like a family, all of them there. And they still cater to the Latin American public. And they're kept busy with their amplifiers and their electric pianos and all that. It's a big thing. People come on up. We go back below the border, take them with them. And our San Diego branch on electronics is very big, also selling below the border. They come up.
What was your distribution like for musical instruments?
On musical instruments, only thing that we distribute would be the Hawaiian guitar. The other guitars we just sold retail. We did not have, then after a while, we got in other items as a distributor. We got in strings and started to go with that. And I can remember jobbers that we bought from. It was wonderful, really. But the main thing now is the button accordions that they sell. We have such a stock, they sell other music stores now. It's unbelievable. And I miss, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I miss the music industry, as you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just wonderful.
And you really were there when there was a tremendous growth, and some of the people that are sort of iconic in the music industry. We were talking about M.H. Berlin earlier.
Yes,
and people
right.
like that. That was
Yes.
their era.
Yeah.
What was that like working during that time?
Oh, it was very fascinating. We had in Los Angeles, we had three jobbers. We had two, then a new one came out called Panino Music. I don't know whether you ever heard of them or not. I run across Mrs. Panino. She lives right out here. And it's amazing. When we see each other, give each other a hug. I remember the day that she and her husband came out and opened up at 14th and Main Street a just jobber of musical instruments. And I would kind of help them fill an order. They just started. And they're beautiful people. And there was Coast Wholesale Music and Pacific Music Company. They were the three big ones. Then the others from New York started to come out. But they were the only ones out here for many years. I don't know if you ever run across the names of Coast Wholesale or...
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know of them?
They were big.
They were it, yeah. Then Pacific came out, and then Panino Music came out.
Mm-hmm.
So we're right at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the beginning of the electronics.
That was good. I was at the right place at the right time. That was it. And they were so nice to me. Every one of them. The Japanese companies were just, at that time, they were just terrific. Today, they're only interested in numbers, of course. But at that time, in order to get started, they would treat us beautifully. Remember, they would take us on trips all the time, which is great. And we became quite big with Hitachi at that time, too. Very big.
When they were still small.
Small. They used my office as their office for a while when they first started.
Is that right?
Yeah, if they could. Then they moved from my office to West Olympic Boulevard. Wonderful people, Japanese people there. They were just wonderful. I enjoyed doing business with them. Now today, you're just a number. There's nobody in the position today. The Japanese would rotate after they get too friendly, then you rotate them back to the factory and bring somebody else new out here. But we've been very fortunate. We've been distributors for, Sony of course went direct, no more distributors. But Pioneer, I remember I was a distributor with a handshake, which was wonderful at that time, was just car stereo. Today, so many papers and attorneys involved. It's an entirely different ballgame.
You know, one of the things that you probably have an interesting perspective on is, for the longest time, consumer electronics were part of the NAMM show.
Correct.
Part of the music industry.
Yes. Okay, I remember Stevens Hotel in Chicago. I don't know whether you remember, it's way before your time.
Yeah, I know of.
you know of, okay? I remember my uncle and myself went back on a bus back to New York, or Chicago, I think it was that time, to display our amplifier and our guitars. On a bus. I think it took us 3 to 4 days to get there. Yeah, I still remember it to this day. And then pretty soon, the electronic field got so big, you know, the musical instrument and electronics were together, that then when they went to Las Vegas, it was so big, electronics had their own show, and then the music industry had it down here in Anaheim, didn't they? Is that where they have it now?
Right, yeah.
Have you been going to those?
Yep, they just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Really?
Yeah, they're huge now.
I went to a couple of times, and one of these days I'll go down there again.
Yeah, I hope you do.
will.
Pay us a visit.
Yeah, I got to see what's going on. Then I remember I went to a ukulele convention down in Long Beach, I think it was. And with my son became very friendly with the ukulele players, and they're all like one family. Unbelievable. And my son introduced me to the various people there that played the ukulele and so forth, and they gave me a very warm welcome. And here's a gentleman that started the ukulele business practically. Conventions are very nice. And that's, see what else in the industry there. Well, all I can say is, I repeat myself, I miss the music industry. Really. I'll go ahead and watch something on TV and to look at all the guitars that they're using in there. And I look at the guitars and see if any of them are ours and so forth. It's really, now one of these days, if you ever get a chance, I'd like you to get in touch with my son. That's probably his phone calls a few minutes ago. I told him you were coming. He would like to talk to you before you leave and see what we have. He would bring them out to you, or if you ever want to go out to Simi Valley, he has them all in his office.
Oh, wonderful.
All hanging up.
So now, is he involved at all with musical instruments?
No, he's in the electronics, just that. You know, he didn't want to go into the music store business because this was getting so big.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
See what else I can add to it there.
One little part of the puzzle
Yes.
is your son's mom, your wife.
Yes.
Was she part of the industry at
No,
all?
no. Her father was the manufacturer of furniture.
Oh, is
It was
that-
very, very big. He had one of the biggest companies out here. He always wanted me to go to work with him. And I said, no, I can't leave my father. Then when he passed away and left the business to me, I couldn't handle it. He had 2 boys and they didn't want any part of it. So I had to dispose of it. And the wife and I were married 55 years.
Wow,
A long time.
sure is.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful marriage, and then I had a little catastrophe here 2 months ago. My younger daughter passed away from cancer also. So we had 2 deaths within 2 years, which is a little rough.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. That daughter was my son-in-law's wife, the one who was in business with me. He's from Durban, South Africa. He's responsible, as well as my son, for the growth of Volutone. Volutone is becoming very, very, very big.
Yeah, I hear about it all the time.
You know, before you leave, I'll give you a catalog.
Oh, neat. Yes.
You'll enjoy looking at it.
So, how many children have you had?
I have 3. I did have 3. I got 2 now, 1 son and 1 daughter, and grandchildren 6, 1 great-granddaughter.
Wow. You get to see them a lot?
Well, they're the ones that are in Bonaire now.
Oh, that's right.
But they were out here prior to going to Bonaire. I called them yesterday. You can call them. I have a number. I'd like talking to you in Carlsbad or so.
No kidding.
You've got 10 numbers. You hit it, you're right there.
Huh.
Yeah. And they're doing well. They love it there. A very small island. They're very happy. No traffic signals, he said. Yeah. So they'll do well there. And my son's son doesn't want any part of the business. He's not interested in this. He works at a computer store in Beverly Hills. He's very knowledgeable on computers and on cell phones. Very, very knowledgeable. And he'll call me and tell me what he has sold for the day, and this actor and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
He loves it, very fascinated with it. And as I say, one of the other grandsons in the business is a crackerjack. Just I'm very fortunate in having such fine kids.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And they keep in touch with me.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
What are you most proud of besides obviously the family when looking back on your career?
I am very proud of what I have accomplished, and I think of it many, many times, and the idea of giving my children a place to go, a start in life, and they carry on, and I get so many compliments from customers that will call me and say, Stan, you should be so proud of your kids. They treat me just like the way you used to treat me. And I feel so good about it, Dan, really, that all my efforts were not in vain. Only thing it is, these kids of today, they don't know what it is to put in 8 hours work. And I know when I was working, there was no limit to the amount of hours you put in.
8 hours was the minimum.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your hospitality. And
Dan, it's my pleasure. I'm just talking about myself. I'd rather you ask me questions or so if I can answer anything that you would like to know. Industry, of the music industry, I'll still remember names to way back that I did business with. Target Dinner, I think it was.
yeah,
Sorkin Music. Ohio was, who's in Ohio now? David Hanser,
oh yeah,
David
sure.
Hansen, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
All around the United States, I remember him. So it has great memories of our industry.
Did you have personal friendships with some of the people in the industry?
Yes, yeah.
And that, that's another aspect of the music industry that I've really caught on to, is that people really felt like it can be something personal as well as
Correct.
professional.
Yes, I remember in the electronic field, when Sony Hitachi all started, they would give us trips all the time to get your business there. And we would keep in touch with a couple of distributors from back east, would call, say, Stan, are you going to go to Hawaii with this one, or are you going to go to Portugal with it? Yes. So our wives would be with us, and they would look forward to us all going. They were just, the Japanese people were just wonderful in that aspect. Met beautiful people in the industry. Electronic as well.
3:00 p.m.
Thank you. And I can't brag enough about it, about both industries. Really.
It's neat. As I say, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for having
Dan,
me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.